2019 KPMG in India's annual Energy and Natural Resources Conclave drew all relevant stakeholders from the energy ecosystem, from policymakers to industry movers and shakers. The conclave, now in its 10th edition, was centered around the theme Navigating Energy Transition. Here are the highlights.
Well, on behalf of my partners and colleagues in KPMG India, delighted to welcome you to the 10th edition of Enrich, KPMG India's annual energy conclave. Minister Pradhan's presence at this event over the last 5 years speaks to the importance he assigns to fresh thinking and knowledge in resolving some of India's biggest challenges, energy transition being among the foremost. KPMG, with its vibrant global energy practice, led by my friend Regina Mayer, who's here with us today, who's our global head of energy, as well as our experienced energy teams in India, are privileged to partner with key ministries in the center, as well as many states, in managing some of the energy challenges, such as power sector reform, supporting power operations, and enhancing efficiencies in utilities and oil companies. This 10th edition of our Energy Conclave intends to address all these and more. Thank you for being with us.
So it's all about managing this transition, resource transitions, technology transitions, going on to policy transitions, which we must enable as a community. What we do in India is not in isolation. What happens in the rest of the world affects us in India. And what we do in India, given the size of the economy and the population, affects the rest of the world. So what's happening in the rest of the world? For that, I'm going to call upon our global head of energy and natural resources, Regina Mayer.
Well, we have to, as an industry, focus on value. I think for too long, we've been focused on production growth, reserves replacement, and our clients, our investors, our communities, our employees, our customers are demanding socially responsible value creation.
The Honourable Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas and Minister of Steel, Shri Dharmendra Pradhan, graced the occasion at Enrich 2019 for the 5th time.
I'm delighted to join Enrich 2019, the 10th edition of KPMG flagship Energy and Natural Resource Conclave. Global energy system is transforming at an unprecedented pace. India too is in the midst of the major transformative shift in its energy sector. In our national context, we are putting in place the right mix of enablers to ensure that the energy transition is secure, affordable, reliable, and sustainable. In India, we are finding ways to achieve the twin objective of more energy and less carbon through a healthy mix of all commercially viable energy sources. India has a huge appetite for energy and will be a driver of global energy demand in coming decades. Increasing footprints of global energy companies in India like Total, Shell, BP, ExxonMobil, and so forth is a testimony the confidence shown by global investors in Indian economy. I thank KPMG for inviting me to join the deliberation today. I wish Enrich 29 all success and look forward to the outcomes from the deliberation of the day. Thank you, friends.
After addressing the August gathering, the Honourable Minister also released Voices 2019, Navigating Energy Transitions, an opinion compilation of sector expertise. And he later took a stroll through the Enrich 2019 Digital Lounge, which featured an experiential zone with the most promising startups in the energy space on display. The first panel discussion of the day focused on the nuances of investing amidst the energy transition.
Let me start with you, Manish. You've been meeting both players which are multinationals outside India, both strategic as well as financial investors, as well as domestic major players across the power as well as oil and gas value chain. How do you see the investment climate?
I mean, definitely there is a lot of pessimism on certain sectors within the energy. You know, I mean, if you look at from an outside investor point of view, the first and the foremost is the stability and the predictability of a policy and the regulatory environment. And I think the way probably India has responded, I'm not saying right or wrong, but you know, we have not seen the likes of very large players in renewables yet come to India because they have a right questions to ask for.
Mohit, let me get you in next. The coal sector, where do you see investments happen, and what type of investments are also required to protect your existing investments, because you have a large legacy installed base, so to speak?
A lot of people, maybe in this room and maybe outside, who have been quite eager to write the obituary of coal. So I dare say we're not there yet. At least India isn't. Because in terms of disruptions, whether it's from renewables or whatever, coal remains and will probably remain the backbone of power supply in the country for a longer term.
So more brownfield and coal phase-based and incremental rather than totally greenfield.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, we can make that statement generally, and we have been telling this to everyone, even our investors as such.
Nitin, let me get you in, particularly from the oil and gas sector. What do you need from the policy environment which would make you much more, let's say, bullish with reference to the sector in India?
I think that from an investment point of view that there's tremendous potential that in terms of the industry. I think what we're facing is tremendous amount of volatility and tremendous amount of uncertainty. So the riskiness and our sense of understanding the risk that underlies the business that exists is core to our ability to understand what is investable and what is not investable. We ourselves are the largest private trading organization in oil and gas in the world, and hence we see tremendous value in the volatility itself and how you manage the volatility, how you create optionality at the back end of that volatility.
Thanks, Nitin. Let me get Pankaj in. What do you see as the challenges in the market opportunity from a policy environment perspective?
So the need for investment is significant. There's in Maharashtra there's a refinery. There's some private players who have also kind of indicated interest in more than doubling their refining capacity. Many of the oil-producing countries are trying to hedge their bets, and not just India, but across the world, they are trying to invest into the downstream. The other investment avenues are energy going into non-energy use, actually a sink for energy in terms of petrochemicals. So in that sense, those are other investment opportunities for the oil and gas sector.
What followed at Enrich 2019, KPMG in India's annual Energy and Natural Resources Conclave was a power-packed presentation and panel discussion around the circular economy in energy and resources.
Circular economy is about generating more value which is more inclusive and covers economical capital, natural capital, and social capital. And talk about intellectual capital, I'm very honored to call upon stage one of the biggest thought leaders in current times to address you on how new thoughts and innovations around circularity is changing the conventional landscape. An award-winning innovative energy technology expert, widely recognized for her leadership in industrial biotechnology and corporate social innovation. It's my privilege to welcome Dr. Jennifer Holmgren, CEO of LanzaTech.
I want to use LanzaTech as an example, but what I really want to talk about is innovation. Because at the end of the day, there is no energy transition unless we change the way we do things. I would also argue to do that, we need to rethink our carbon economy. The vision has to be about how we create a new future, how we create a better planet, how we create the world we want to live in. And I would argue that to do that, we need innovation.
Thank you, Doctor, for setting up the tone of the discussion for today. And the electric future, which the publication which you got, that's not going to be a reality until unless we integrate circularity. Because the electric future is going to produce a lot of e-waste. And until unless we build in the circularity, it is not going to be the right kind of future. Paul, you heard what the future holds in terms of some of the technologies, how the circularity is going to impact this particular industry in terms of energy and natural resources. My question to you is that if you want to sound a responsible corporate, you have to tell that, or are you seeing the real pressures on the CEOs from the investors, from the consumers?
You're absolutely right. So every year we survey 1,300 CEOs around the world across all industries. And in the current year survey, 76% of the CEOs said that the biggest challenge to growth for their organizations was their ability to respond effectively to the climate challenge.
What's the future for the refinery column?
On one hand, we have the aspiration as a country to emerge as the regional refining hub, and heavy augmentation in refining capacity is happening. On the other hand, there is a e-mobility buzz, and there is every debate in every corporate that probably the conventional fossil fuels are going down. But given the growth trajectory of this country, any number of energy estimates, whether it is IEA, whether it is BP Energy Outlook, whether it is our own very Niti Aayog projections, till 2030, coal and fossil fuels, they have a very robust demand, and they are going to be the primary energy providers and primary energy sources.
Jennifer, your thoughts? Because I'm kind of seeing, even for example, if you look at Aramco's case, the strategy of crude to fuel has kind of shifted from crude to chemicals with the acquisition of SABIC and even their investments now in India. It's moving towards the chemical side. But you have been talking about chemicals which are non-fossilized as well. So I'm still worried as to where is that?
I would say two things. One is reusing carbon over and over is the key. Making sure you give every carbon a second chance rather than leaving it in our atmosphere. That's the first thing. The other thing is I think we need to think about what a refinery of the future looks like, whether it makes more products versus fuels or what it really does. And I think you're going to find some really quite interesting surprises. If you think about the US, where gasoline is going down, where diesel is going down, but you still need jet fuel and it's going up. How does a refinery make more of a product that used to be a byproduct? A lot of people talk about shifting to chemicals, but we're still going to need some of these fuels, and how are we going to make them and make money at it when the big workhorse, gasoline, is going down? I think these are important questions to ask ourselves.
Over the years, Enrich has become an industry event rather than a KPMG event. Today we heard the minister. He was giving us those directional messages that we need to work on. And in the middle of the energy transition, which is happening at this point of time, I think these messages, if we can convert some of them into action agenda, that would be a great thing.
This particular event brings out all the leaders in this sector to look into the future and spot those trends, what is going to transform this particular industry segment. And companies have started seeing that the new technologies which are emerging will help them integrate circular economy into their production processes, and thereby adding more value, not just to the company, but also for the society at large.
Enrich 2019, KPMG in India's annual Energy and Natural Resources Conclave also featured a special session on ENR and evolving autonomous connected electric and shared economy.
Let me start with Naveen, because you are really at the mouth of the value chain, so to say, right? You're in touch with consumers. What do you think? What's the path you think the whole electric mobility industry will follow? What's your forecast on that?
So there's a different requirement for two-wheelers, there's a different requirement for three-wheelers, for cars, and then you look at the commercial vehicles. So they all have different requirements, different infrastructural requirements, and they will all come in at different stages. Commercial fleet will happen, the buses, public transport will happen because the government wants it to happen. Now, whether it makes commercial sense or not is a different story, but that will happen because it's a government agenda. Two-wheelers will happen because it's a low-hanging fruit. Three-wheelers, when we look at e-rigs, is already happening. There's already, I think the number is over 1 million units in the country already. The people are now, the drivers are not buying so much of the CNG or the petrol or the diesel or the normal rickshaws. They're buying more of the e-rigs. So we can already see a S-curve happening there. And then we've got cars, which, according to us and according to this thing, is going to be the slowest on the offtake.
Atul, let me come to you next. Can you just give us a quick lowdown on what is the technology roadmap on battery?
I think important point here to understand for all of us is that adoption for electric vehicles is also many times limited by the range anxiety which people are talking about, and it's about change of behavior, which takes time. So obviously people need to familiarize with that, but also people always have back of their mind that with the petrol vehicle or a diesel car, they can switch on wherever they want and they'll find a refueling station whenever they want. And so the range is unlimited to that extent. Whereas in a battery vehicle, especially with the lead acid batteries, which we have been predominantly using so far, it has been a big challenge. And now with lithium ion, there is a far greater improvement. This range anxiety can be overcome by the question of price to a large extent, but I think price is not the only thing. It's about the right energy density of the battery.
2 points from you, Rahul. One, again, I would like your view on the adoption rates, how you see that happening. And again, on the storage technologies, are you aligned with what Atul is saying, or you have other views on the performance and costs?
There is a lot of things in terms of consumer awareness, the choice availability, but that is something which I think there are a number of players who are now coming to the market where it is no longer just dependent on the Indian OEMs. But I think around the globe, people are looking into this India as a market. And if Indian OEMs do not wake up and do not introduce quality products, this market is going to get flooded with imported products.
So let me, come to you, Mr. Reddy. And just from your position earlier as a resource diplomacy person and you having worked in the MEA, how do you think a country should really go about resource security?
It is a question of what options are available for various resources under the energy production that we are looking at. I think we are in a very unprecedented phase in the history of energy, and we are all talking about energy transition. And today, I think Honorable Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, in his address in this gathering, I think he's broadly set the tone for what will be India's approach to this whole issue. And he said that India is for developing low carbon pathways for the industry and for the economy. Having said that, he also touched on that government is keen on setting up the right mix of enablers to ensure that the energy transition is secure, affordable, reliable and sustainable.
Enrich 2019, KPMG in India's annual Energy and Natural Resources Conclave concluded with a panel of subject matter experts shedding more light on the future outlook of the energy sector. The theme of the session was aptly titled, Looking Back to Look Ahead.
Coming to the issue of inclusion, we have conceptualized and we have very successfully executed one of the most globally acclaimed projects of hydrocarbon energy inclusion, namely Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. 80 million consumers were given LPG connection within a period of about 40 months. And this has empowered the poor rural household women of this country. This has led to creation of smoke-free kitchens. This has led to empowerment of women. This has led to mainstreaming them. This has led to more productive use of their time. This has given them more time for recreation. And this has also created a sense of responsibility in them. All this would not have been possible. Such a gigantic exercise would not have been feasible without real application of technology.
Yeah, rightly pointed out, I think power sector, electricity sector is one of the sector which is under tremendous stress, and mainly because of the type of disruption and the technology that has come in. Unlike many other energy sector, you take the coal sector, you take the petroleum sector, the governance of the power sector is totally different. It is the source from where the money comes in that in the Constitution of India, that is within the domain of the state government. So unlike in power sector or coal sector where it is dominant central government and then your policy basically flows from the top to bottom, Here in the power sector, it has to work differently. The policy can be in a coordinated way, the program can be in a coordinated way, but money flows from bottom to top.
Mr. Surana, as a commercial organization going through lots of transitions, you've heard some of these issues. How do you react to them?
If I go to inclusion, probably in my mind, there are 3 or 4 issues which guides this inclusion. One thing is, what is the aspiration of the people? Second is, what is the affordability? And affordability on the part of the people who are providing it and the part of the people who are receiving it. This, especially in the oil sector, is superimposed by a transition phase which is coming in.
Okay, so Regina, we'll come to you. You heard a lot about India. This is your second visit. So how did you read these 2 days? What are your big takeaways from this?
So, I think there are a lot of parallels between India and the US, right? We're very strong democracies. We have a lot of ingenuity, but you also have some unique differences. As you pointed out, Anish, you have a young demographic. You have a very tech-savvy demographic, but you also haven't necessarily unlocked all of the talent potential that exists in your country. So what's exciting to me about these inclusion projects is you're starting to figure out how to unlock the rest of that talent.
This is the 10th anniversary of Enrich, a thought leadership conference that KPMG has been proud to put on over the years. We've been proud to participate with governments and companies in a number of areas relating to energy.
Over the last 10 years, we have seen a very strong commitment by the stakeholders to this platform. Right from the Minister of Power, Renewable Energy, Oil and Gas. So government commitment, private sector commitment has been very strong to this platform. So I'm really happy this has come to the 10th year, and I really look forward to another decade of Enrich.